All right, so now we've just gone over the stuff from last lesson, so let's move to today's lesson, lesson 3. And so today we're going to kind of do a little bit more advanced commands with the bash shell, and we'll cover variables and commands, additional commands that use variables, executing bash scripts and dot files. Is the question?
Before we begin, do I need Atom Beta, or do I just need Atom?
You don't. The question is, do you need Atom Beta, which is a new version of Atom, I suppose? Yeah, you don't need. You only need a text editor that works. Yeah, yeah. So any text editor can work, except for Microsoft Word. You will fail the class if you use Microsoft Word to edit your code. No, just kidding, but kinda. No, you don't want. The problem with something like Microsoft Word, just so you know, is that it adds all kinds of extra new line characters and formatting and stuff. A text editor, the point of a text editor is that it's just plain text. That's really important because when you try to do something with the file later, so for example, even if you edit a file in Excel, that might add some characters or something that you then, when you pass it to someone who's using Unix, it might affect the behavior. So typically a file that's plain text can be opened in Excel or Word and it will look fine, but the other way around, it might not look fine. So you'll kind of get the idea of this as you go. Okay, so we're also going to talk about parsing files, working with input and output, wildcards, brace expansion, I'll explain what that is, and control keys. Okay, so let's kind of split screen here. Let's see if I can, yeah, this should work. And make this a little bigger. So let's do this. Let's, so we are now in our home directory. Your name is different than mine, so you'll have a different name of your home directory, but it should be something like this. If not, you want to type cd and go back to your home directory. And now we're going to go cd sio 209 and then /lessons. So we're going to go two folders in and hit enter. And now if you have a prompt like mine, you'll see where you are. If not, you can just type pwd and it will tell you. It'll confirm we went to the right place. So now let's do, we don't need to do this for today, but pretty soon for future lessons we will. So let's go ahead and click on this raw link. We're going to go up to the URL and copy it. And we're going to go back to our lessons folder, type curl. Oh, these commands are always lowercase, but this parameter is a capital O. And then double quotes, command V, which is paste. And then another double quote. When I say double quote, I mean a quote that has 2 lines, not typing the quote character twice. And that will download it. And now we type ls, and you can see we've got some of the files that we made last time, and we've got now we have lesson 1, 2, and 3. So if we wanted to, we could look at that file. We type lesson3.md, and we'd see the text of that file. So we've got it here. We'll just leave that there. We're not going to run the file. It's just a text file, so we can't run it. We could open it, but we already have a copy of it on our browser here, so we can just use the version on the browser. Okay, so now we're ready to get started. So first of all, bash variables and commands. So sometimes you want to, so kind of taking a step back, bash is a is basically another computer program, just like Python or Perl or C. Bash is not only a shell, it's also kind of a type of a computer program. So you can do things that you would do in a computer program. So for example, you can assign some value to a variable. So for example, if I type a equals 0 and then hit enter, then if I want to see the value of that variable, I can use this echo command that we've used before, and you do echo $a. So when the variable is assigned, we don't use the $. We just say variable equals whatever. When we want to then use the variable in the shell, we use a $sign to say, okay, I want variable a. And it matters if it's uppercase or lowercase. I'm typically going to use uppercase variables, but we don't have to. So if I then do echo $a, I'll get the value of that which we stored. So similarly, you can add, I could do a lowercase b, and then I can call that bar. So if I do echo lowercase b, that will have the value bar. So you can store either words or or integers or whatever you want. And then you can also do something like I can type C equals, and then in quotes I can put something in quotes, and then it will give me this longer string of characters that includes spaces. So that's why I needed the double quotes. So that's assigning variable, and then we used echo variable to output the value.
Are the variables, I would just say for that, like if you close out the terminal with those sorts of...
Correct. Yes. If you close the terminal session, that you will lose those values. So this is typically, so there's one example that I like. So let's say, and we'll cover writing a bash script in a few minutes. So you can put a bunch of bash commands into a file and run them all together, kind of like a program or a script. So when you do that, or when you're running lots of commands, you might want a shortcut. So for example, we can do, I can make a variable called working directory, or WRKDIR just for short, and I can call that so let's make sure this is what we thought it was. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. It knows that tilde is actually our home directory, so it's going to store that variable as it turns out it's where we're currently working now, but it wouldn't have to be, right? So we've now created a variable that represents our present working directory. So if we're anywhere on the computer, we can do less working directory slash shoot. I gotta change the. Oh, I forgot my. Yeah, I forgot my $sign. Okay, so you see what happened there? So what I did was I used the variable now as a shortcut for this longer path, and then inside, and then after that, I put the file that's in that path. So if you're running a lot of commands that refer to some files somewhere else on your computer, you can save that whole path as a shortcut, so you don't have to type it every time. It makes your code, your script cleaner. It's totally optional, but this is the kind of thing you can do with variables. Another variable. So there's these last four are system variables that Bash uses and that you can access if you want. So one is called path. So if I do echo $path, and it has to be all capital letters because this is how it's stored on the machine, it's going to print out all of these different directories. Now yours probably has fewer directories than mine, but it's going to be one directory after another that are combined using colons. So what this does is this is a special variable that anytime you type a command, the terminal or bash will look in all those directories for that command. And the first place it finds it, that's the one it's going to use. And if it, so for example, we saw this command before called which. So if I do which cp, it'll say where is the command cp. And trying to see in my, yeah. So yeah, so that is right here. So this right here is where that was listed in my path, and indeed that's, so when I typed which CP, it looked to see where that command was, and then that's the one that's going to be used when I run the command CP. So this is a little bit hard to read, so there's a little shortcut I have here that you can copy and paste. So if you go over here, highlight that, type Command C, and back here Command B, and then hit Enter. It will basically, this is just a way to split. Every time it sees a colon, it's going to add a new line character instead. This is just a handy way to print out the path, so now you can see more easily all of those directories. So when we install Miniconda, which I think will be next time, this is how we're going to use Python in the class. And so when we install Miniconda, it's going to append, or it's actually going to put the bin or the path where Miniconda is stored at the beginning of our path, so that when we type Python, the first place it's going to look for Python is in that Miniconda installation. So if you installed Python doing the exercises, that's fine. That's still going to be on your computer, but that won't be the version of Python that's used. It's going to be the version that we installed, or that we install with Miniconda. So that's how the path works. So the variable is called path, but then the sort of informally your path is all of the different directories where you might have commands. And so if you ever want to add a folder to your path, what you can do is we can type, just to look, we can type less tilde slash dot bash profile. This is that file we were editing last time. And if you look at that file, you can see that I have a lot of junk in my file, but this part here with path equals, so what's happening here is we're saying take the path that's already there and then replace that with the path that's already there plus this new directory. So you can also do this all in one command. I've done it this way so it's easier to see. So all of these are different directories on my computer where I have commands that I want to be able to run from anywhere, and so I want them in my path. So that's how you can do it. I don't encourage you to change that now, but just to be aware. Typically, when you install a program, they'll tell you how to do it, but that's how it's done. And sometimes a program will do it automatically for you. Another special variable is called shell. So if we type echo $shell, it should be bash for most of us or all of us. So that if you're not sure what kind of shell you're using, I'll make this a little bigger for you guys. If you're not sure what kind of shell you're using, you can type echo $shell, and you will get the name of the shell and where it's located.
Is there a way to move out, for example, for yours, the Miniconda shows up as a first line? When I install it, it's kind of far below.
Okay.
Is there a way to move out?
Yeah. So if you want to edit the order of the directories in your path, you can do that by editing this .bash profile file. So I think what happened here is that when I installed Miniconda, down at the bottom it added some stuff. Way down. Sorry, I've got a lot of stuff in my file that you don't need to worry about. But yeah, so it has this thing. Export. It's just basically the same thing that I did above. Export path equals. So now you can see it's adding the Miniconda part before the path. So this is going to take whatever my path is and put it in front. If you probably what happened if you already installed Miniconda. So there might have been an option to say append or prepend would be the word, right? So append is put at the end. Prepend would be at the beginning. So it probably said, do you want to prepend your path with the Miniconda? And maybe you said no. So if you say yes, it's going to add these 2 lines to the end of your .bash profile. So what you can do, if you want that, is you can prepend it. Now, in practice, it doesn't matter so much because every time we're using Miniconda or Conda, we're going to create a new environment. And so once you're inside that environment, you're going to use like the version of Python that comes with it anyway. So I don't think it matters so much, but just be aware of that. And if you get some behavior that's not like what I'm showing, that could be why. Okay, we also, last time we covered this command top. So if we type top, we'll see all these processes running on our computer. There's a lot of information here, but and let's see. I think bash is what we're running right now. So 12161 or 12160 I think might be the process we're currently in right now, except for not including top. So if we do echo ppid, yeah, it's 12160. So it's that login command because we're in a login command. So what this is if you want to, have you ever done like force quit on an application? Like an application won't quit normally, so you have to do force quit. This is another way to like force quit. So if you go to top and you find the process that's not responding, you can type kill and then the number of the process ID and kill that command. I don't want to do that now, but that's an option.
For some reason, my bash profile
Mm-hmm.
isn't working. You know what had happened to
Your bash
less bash profile?
you don't see anything? Okay.
So there's no
You did it say there's no file? It said there's no file. So that's possible. If you haven't, are you using git bash or okay? So is anyone else using git bash? Do you have a bash profile?
I think so.
Did you create one? Did you create one last time?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you want to do in that case is that little bit of text at the bottom of this lesson. You can do something like you can create a file called, you can do like nano from your home directory. You could type nano.bash_profile. It'll open up a window, and then you can copy and paste this text to that file and save it. And then next time you open up a shell, it will use all the information in there, and then when you look at the file, you'll also see that it's there. Question?
So I've had that problem. I use Ubuntu.
Okay.
I've had that problem since I started. I've been using Bash for 3 months.
Okay.
Will that overwrite any paths I have that are saved wherever they're saved?
So it should not. So the question is, if you edit your .bash profile, will that kind of erase or change what you have elsewhere?
Yeah,
It's-
wherever it's pulling.
Right. Because so depending on how your computer or your terminal is set up, it will it will pull information from different files. So on the Mac, for example, there used to be a file called .profile, and I think they've kind of done away with that. They're using more the Linux style .bash_profile, but there's also a file called .bashrc.
Yeah.
.bashrc often has some of that information. So typically, it depends how you have it set up. I think on the Mac you can specify. I think on Ubuntu you can specify which of those dot files get run every time you open up a new shell, and it typically would run both of those. For example, it would run so. So there's a number of things you can do. You can change. So you can even create like another file. So sometimes I'll create a file called like bash underscore aliases, and I'll put all my aliases in that file, and then in the bash underscore profile, I'll say source dot bash underscore aliases. So it'll say every time it runs that, it'll automatically run this other file too. So you have to kind of experiment with what works. When you first installed Ubuntu, was your .bash profile didn't have anything in there? Okay, so that's good. That means it's your file to put in what you want, and you're not gonna break anything. You can break things, but you're not gonna delete anything that's already on your system. You still want to make sure all those commands are working. We had something I hadn't seen before last week where if you had an error in your .bash profile, actually the terminal wouldn't work because it runs that file automatically, and if it reaches an error, you couldn't open. So, but as long as you're kind of entering commands like this, or it should work. So, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, finally, the last special variable is $home. This is the same as your tilde. So if you echo $home, it's the same as typing echo tilde. Some people prefer one or the other. I think maybe on some systems the tilde doesn't always work, so you can use maybe on some Unix systems. So give that a try.